Morning. We're here for the Structural Pest Control Board meeting, and Susan, would you call the roll?
Sure. James West.
Here.
Curtis Good.
There.
Savannah Williams.
Here.
And Mike Grant.
Present.
So the record will show we have four members constituting a quorum.
All right, would you all please join me in a salute to the flag, which is over there. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Our first item is public comment for items that are not on the agenda, and it looks like Mr. Reardon has a comment here. If you would please identify yourself.
Yes, good morning, Mr. Tamayo, members of the board. My name is Chris Reardon. I represent the Pest Control Operators of California. What I thought I'd do today, I think other folks are going to comment on this too, but we had a recent board meeting in Lake Tahoe in June. And one of the issues, we had two issues that come up, but the primary issue came up with this whole issue of the applicator's exam. And I know most of you have been aware of this issue for some time. And I know that, I talked to Susan, that this issue will be coming up at your October board meeting. My understanding also is you'll be talking to OPES in closed session regarding the exam. But I must tell you, there is a great interest, and you'll see it in this room as well, on the applicator's exam. And look at the pass failure rate as well. So we're very concerned about it. We also know that there's workshops coming up regarding our participation. We're aware of that. We'll be working with Susan and trying to get our folks out to those workshops as well, because we know it's important as it relates to the exam. So just wanted to make, it's generally a big concern with PCOs. It's probably our number one concern right now, and I wanted to make you aware of that. Secondly, the other issue came up, and I'd like to work with staff as well, and that's the whole issue of the license renewal process. There's been some concern generally about the length of that process. I know it's never perfect, having some experiences myself, but we would like to understand better why there, at least we find bottlenecks, and how maybe we can help you regarding staffing, process, et cetera. So we stand ready to work with both of you or on both those issues, and look forward to working with you in the future. So thank you.
Thanks, Chris. Would anybody else care to make any comments on items on the agenda?
Good morning. Thank you. My name is John Bernard. I'm owner and qualifying manager of Compass Pest Management. Been in business for about 20 years. I feel we're a good company in the industry and a company that has potential to grow. I'm also our current chairman for the Riverside San Bernardino District, PCOC. And I'm here to talk about the applicator's exam. As a small business owner here in California, it's tough to get employees, get them trained, and get them through the process. When I started in this industry in 1979, the applicator's exam was an exam that we actually took in our manager's office, and it was based on safety. It was about what to do if you have a leak, what to do if you have a spill, what to do to keep yourself safe, understanding the basic components of a label, and how to deem the information. But you worked in the field under a field rep, and you did that work, and you learned, and as you progressed, you were able to get to a field rep licensing and then take stature in the industry. The challenge that we're facing today with the applicator's exam being as difficult as it is, we're not able to get entry-level people into the industry. As a small business, I've hired 3 different people over the course of the last 12 months, put them to work in the field on an average about 4 months each. They never were able to get past the test. We've utilized different training programs, different trainers, and tried to find ways to get them through that process. But it's hard when you get somebody in the field and they literally end up standing and watching for 4 months, somebody else working while they're trying to get through this test. They lose interest and want to move on to something where they can put their hands to work. So not thinking that it would be smarter to make a test easier, but to find other ways to deem more education, I went to our local community college district and asked if they would be interested in putting together a vocational class that would cover the applicator's exam. They were very interested. They did a little bit of research. They found that our industry is going to grow about 25% over the next 7 years. So that's great for our industry. Then they went and started looking at how the curriculum would be put together, and in that process, they couldn't find a target to shoot for. They looked at the material on the Structural Pest Control Board as far as training, and it was very wide swath. There was no real avenue of which they could train to, so they said, well, let's shelf it until there's a curriculum figured out. And so that is part of my ask for the board. So we need to look at the exam and figure out if we're doing ourselves justice in the industry by making the exam so difficult that nobody passes it. Are we actually creating a less safe situation for the public through that? Because we're putting, or companies out there might be putting people out there doing unlicensed treatments. There's technicians that are trained today that are hustling to try and get the work done and may become unsafe because they're trying to get it done too quickly. So there's pros and cons to each. If we get guys licensed, we know they're accountable, we know they have the safety understanding, and we know that they can get out there and work under the leadership of a field rep or an operator and get their stuff done. I'd also like to ask the board to consider how a study guide could be put together for this so that we can do additional training and get people licensed and understanding the safe and effective use of pesticides in the industry. And then there is a rule that we run into in the field, which I alluded to slightly, that I don't remember if it's 30 days or 90 days. I tell my guys 30 days, they can no longer touch the equipment as a trainee, and now they have to wait until they get past their applicator's exam. And that's what creates that spot where there may be somebody out there for 2 or 3 months waiting to get through the testing process that can't do work. And they end up standing and watching a field rep do the work all day long, twiddling their thumbs, and that does not create a value to a person who's seeking employment. They're standing there not doing anything, and idle hands, idle minds don't create a good employee situation or a strong learning environment. So if we stay with a test that's similar to this, I'd like to review how long a trainee can work alongside a field rep in the field so that we can get them as immersed in the industry as possible. I thank you for taking the time to listen, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Cliff? Good morning.
My name is Cliff Utley. I'm Cliff's Pest Control in San Bernardino. Been doing pest control. I've been in the industry since 1989. Been actually working full-time since 92. I am also addressing the applicator test. I also had served on this board. I understand some of the things that go on what the testing preparation entails, and I'd like to approach this a little differently. An applicator, and everybody's having difficulty. I think it's because Amazon and these other companies are hiring a lot of the people. You know, there's not a lot of people that want to work out there, so when we find good people, we want to get them in our companies and work. There's a lot of people out there that would love to work for us, but the test is ridiculous. It went from 58% pass rate, and as soon as it got, I hate to say this, that high, within 2 to 3 months, it dropped to a 38% pass rate. I understand how the testing, the people that help us prepare the test, they have rules, and I think they work very well for field rep and operators, but they're not designed for the applicators, because applicators are entry-level positions. As an applicator, I don't need somebody to take a test, not know what they passed and what they didn't, not even knowing what they did right or wrong, and then have to come to work. It's my job to train these people. So I believe, as John said earlier, this test should be based on label reading, safety, maybe the equipment we use. It should be very narrow, very specialized. And yeah, these people I believe the test should be a 70-75% pass rate, because it is entry level. It is, if an applicator gets in trouble, it's usually the burden falls to the operator of the company. So I kind of speak for, let's get the test in more realistic territory. You know, I understand that the DC, you know, anyways, the Department of Consumer Affairs, I understand that they have a procedure to go by. However, I think some exceptions need to be made when it comes to our applicators test. Again, they used to take them in the offices. Then you used to take them in the ag departments. And I see why we got them out of the ag departments, because they kept getting compromised. Went through that for years. That was the big complaint. However, I believe that they should be more guided and designed for entry-level employees. The burden to train the employees then becomes the company and the operators. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Good morning. My name is Sivash Taravati. I'm an UC IPM advisor at the University of California. And I just want to remind the board that our team has suggested that one single study guide to be made. And I'm sure you have heard this many times, but I just wanted to say it again that we are totally ready and willing to help with this process, to make a single study guide that is very customized for California situation, for California pests and California concerns, and our team would do its best to help with this matter. And because I'm hearing a lot of complaints, as you just heard today, so I just wanted to say that this was something that we suggested to the board, and we are still willing to do that, and it would be our pleasure. Thank you.
Anybody else? Come on up.
Good morning. My name is Brian McQueen. I work with Target Specialty Products. I'm a distribution company. I also have 20 years experience. I'm an operator 2 and 3, field rep branch 1. And we do a lot of training for PMPs out there to try to pass, and it's in regards to just testing in general, not just the applicator exam. My understanding is the test passing rates are probably the lowest they've ever been. I hear from companies every day that are struggling, costing them a lot of money to employ somebody for 90 days and struggle not to get them passed or get them to be able to work. It's a huge investment for companies. We had, I think, 15 people in our last applicator class, and I don't think one of them passed the exam. We cannot, safety, pesticide safety, application questions. And it's a real struggle for the industry. I wanted to relay the message to you guys today that a lot of these PMPs are sharing with me that they're having to hire people that have been terminated from other companies that should not be in the industry because they're struggling to find applicators. Guys that have substance abuse problems, stuff that DCA and the Structural Pest Control Board is unaware of and cannot govern that companies have terminated employees for. Issues with just internally in their company that they're struggling with that we need to weed out of this industry, in my opinion. But they're having to rehire these people, and they're just going from business to business because they cannot get an applicator licensed and some good quality people too. So I think the board really needs to look at that and try to get a better understanding on what's on the test. And to make sure that we get these good people licensed.
Before I ask for any additional comments, Susan, could you just sort of basically summarize what is going on with the review of the test? And did you? Well, this is as far so. So basically, I understand that there's an issue. That I just wanted to know. Somebody mentioned that there is some sort of a workshop or something going on, and I wanted to just hear exactly what that is before we make promises as far as what we would like to do as agendize. That's all.
Right. So it might be part of our EO report. I'm not sure if it either can be or should be. And then it could be items on the future agenda.
Okay, so what we'll do is we'll get some information later on the status of this. If it seems appropriate by the end of the meeting, we'll put it, this will be something that will be on a future agenda. I don't know if necessarily our next meeting will be it, but yes, Susan?
It's already scheduled for October 5th.
Okay.
To meet with OPEDS in closed session with you board members meeting with OPEDS.
Okay.
Rosenman.
Rosenman, excuse me.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you, Vice President. A few things about this process. First, we have now magically transformed this meeting room into a courtroom, and I'm going to ask everyone to please try and have the appropriate decorum for a courtroom. We're here to address two particular petitions, and those petitioners deserve attention. Most people carry cell phones these days. I'm going to ask that you turn off any ringer on your cell phone. Please put it in silent mode. Also, any recording that's made on a cell phone is not an official record, either in the nature of the webcast that the board makes available or the official record on the petition proceedings, which will start in a few minutes when we get to the individual petitions. There's some information I'd like to discuss both with board members and informational for the audience and the petitioners. First, it's my understanding that every board member who's present has been through a process to hear and determine petitions that are addressed to the board. All right, and I see a shake of heads. I appreciate that. I want to remind members that they act like jurors. You're not to make a judgment until all of the evidence is in, and that your decision has to be based only on the evidence that's presented today. If you had any prior involvement in the previous enforcement proceedings, or if you have outside knowledge relating to either of the petitioners, you're not permitted to use that information as it would not be included in the record. In some instances, I found that a board member believes that they have a situation such that they don't believe they can be fair and unbiased, and under those circumstances they should recuse or disqualify themselves. So let me ask by a show of hands, is there any board member who believes that they cannot be fair and unbiased and therefore should disqualify themselves for either of these two petition hearings? And I see no hands. Thank you. I also want to remind the board members that they also act like judges. You have to be fair and impartial and not be biased. The order of the presentation for both of these petitions will be as follows. I will formally open the record. We have a court reporter who will be taking the record down, the official record of the petition hearings. The Deputy Attorney General, who is here representing the Attorney General's office, maybe I could have you introduce yourself to the group.
Good morning, everyone. Melissa Tyner, Deputy Attorney General, appearing on behalf of the people of the state of California pursuant to Government Code Section 11522.
Thank you. And Ms. Tyner, I'll ask you to make that statement on the record for each of the petitions as well. Once we get to the evidentiary presentation, Ms. Tyner will go first and will formally present the petition to me. It's my understanding that all of the board members have copies of the full petition package, but I need to mark as an exhibit to the hearing a set of the petition documents. Ms. Tyner is then able to make an opening statement. Each petitioner, when we'll handle them separately, will be sworn in, and then a petitioner is allowed to make a statement under oath. It's in the nature of direct testimony. And then Ms. Tyner is first given the chance to ask questions. Board members then have the chance. I will usually either start on my left or my right. I'm going to ask board members, as a courtesy to the court reporter, if you can remember to do so, please state your name before you state a question, and in that way the court reporter, who is usually not looking directly at people and may not have memorized your names, she'll be able to accurately depict who has asked a particular question. Once I've gone through all the board members, if I have questions I may ask as well, I'll ask the petitioner if they have any additional information they want to offer. Ms. Tyner will have a second chance. Board members have the last chance to ask petitioners for information that they think will be helpful in making a decision. Let's talk about the decision. The decision is made in an executive session. That's a private closed session of the board meeting. And I believe that that's scheduled to take place after both of the petition hearings have taken place. I don't believe that there's any recording made other than perhaps a voting that takes place in the executive session. I want to remind board members that you have to be present for the entirety of the hearing to be able to vote during the executive session. So in other words, if you need to take or make a phone call, ask me to take a recess, and we'll go off the record, and that way you can be back in the room when the rest of the evidence is presented. If for any other reason anyone involved in the hearing process needs to take a break, ask me for a recess, and in all likelihood, I'll allow that. All right, so let me ask board members if they have any questions about any of the comments or instructions that I've just provided. And again, I see no indication of any questions. So if everyone's ready, we'll proceed into the first petition, which according to the agenda is the petition on behalf of Ireenie Burzynski. Ms. Burzynski, if we could have you up to the table. And for purposes of the court reporter, we are now opening the record. And this is in the matter of the petition for reinstatement of Ireenie Agapitos Burzynski. The prior accusation number in the matter was 2009-60, and the Office of Administrative Hearings has opened a file number 2018-060957. And Ms. Burzynski, could I have you please state your full name for the record?
My name's Ireenie Agapitos Burzynski.
Good morning.
Morning.
And Ms. Burzynski, did you hear all of the information I gave about the order of proceedings?
Yes, sir.
Very good. Let me ask the representative of the Attorney General's office to please identify herself for the record.
Good morning, Melissa Tyner, Deputy Attorney General, appearing on behalf of the people of the state of California pursuant to Government Code Section 11522.
Thank you, Ms. Tyner. Let me start by asking you, Ms. Burzynski, do you have any questions about anything that either I've said or anything else about this process that we can start by trying to answer?
No, not at all.
All right. If something comes up during the hearing and you're not sure what it means or you'd like some explanation, please feel free to say, "Excuse me, Judge, can you please explain X?"
Okay.
All right. So that being said, Ms. Tyner, would you like to proceed with an opening statement? Or do you want to present the petition first? Up to you.
Your Honor, I'd like to present the petition first.
Go right ahead.
I'd like to first mark for identification and offer into evidence as Exhibit 1 the original petition packet with the accompanying documents. The board members and petitioner have been provided with a copy of the same set of this exhibit. Exhibit 1 consists of the following. Correspondence letter dated from the board dated June 4th, 2018, providing notice of today's hearing and confirming petitioner's appearance. Confirmation request from the petitioner dated June 7th, 2018. A copy of the guidelines for petitions for reinstatement provided to the petitioner. The petition for modification, termination of probation with attachments, including a letter from the petitioner and 2 character reference letters. A decision and order adopted by the board effective November 11th, 2009, which revoked FR license number 388870. Documents pertaining to 2 2015 convictions from the Riverside County Superior Court, case number RIF 1403800, People versus Ireenie Burzynski. And finally, the petitioner's license history certifications, including field rep license number FR 38887 and applicator license number RA 33355. I'm prepared to continue with a summary of this case unless Your Honor would like to pause and address other matters at this time.
Well, I do have a question. The very last statements you made, Ms. Tyner, related to licenses, and it looks to me that the numbers that you had read off are not, well, I have 3 pages in the petition package exhibit. Well, first, let me go back a step. The documents described by Ms. Tyner are marked for identification, as Exhibit 1 to these proceedings. And Ms. Tyner, do you intend to move it into evidence?
I do, thank you.
All right. And Ms. Burzynski, am I correct that you don't have any objection to the petition being evidence in the
No,
hearing?
not at all.
Thank you. So Exhibit 1 will be received. Ms. Tyner, I see at page 43 of the package, I'm sorry, pages 43, 44, and 45 have certified license histories as to 3 different licenses, and I believe that you had referenced 2 in your statement.
That is correct, Your
Maybe I
Honor.
overlooked something.
No, it's okay. Let me address that. Thank you. So I address licenses number FR 38887, which appears on page 43 of the
Right.
packet, as well as license RA 33355, which appears on page 45 of the packet. The additional page we have here, I believe, pertains to a license that was accidentally included and not subject to these proceedings.
And actually, as I look at the page, it appears that the license under that number was canceled due to non-renewal, so I wasn't familiar with the substance of that. Thank you very much. All right, and so Exhibit 1, which is the petition, has been received in evidence. And Ms. Tyner, if there's an opening statement, you may proceed.
Yes, Your Honor, thank you. On or around July 1st, 2005, the Board issued Field Representative License FR 38887 in Branch 2 to the petitioner. Field Representative License FR 38887 was canceled due to non-renewal on June 30th, 2008. On May 29th, 2009, accusation number 2009-60 was filed against the petitioner's field license. The factual circumstances surrounding the accusation are that on or around July 23, 2008, petitioner was convicted of having violated Penal Code Section 487, grand theft of personal property, a felony, and Penal Code Section 496A, receiving and concealing stolen property, also a felony. Because petitioner failed to file a notice of disagreement, on November 11, 2009, a default decision and order was rendered revoking field license FR 38887. On or about March 19, 2018, petitioner filed a request to reinstate her field license. Petitioner disclosed in the application for reinstatement that she had 2 convictions subsequent to the 2008 convictions that led to the revocation of her license. Petitioner disclosed she was convicted of violating Health and Safety Code 11378, possession of a controlled substance, to wit, methamphetamine. She was also convicted of violating Penal Code 29800, Subdivision A, Subsection 1, unlawful possession of a firearm. After petitioner's disclosure, the board requested and received certified court documents confirming the existence of these convictions. The documents can be found in the petition packets. In addition to the petition for reinstatement, petitioner submitted a letter disclosing her entire criminal history, including 3 additional convictions prior to the initial licensure in 2008 involving possession of controlled substances. Petitioner submitted a letter from Catherine Maggie, a licensed clinical social worker at LA CADA, a transitional reentry program located in Santa Fe Springs, California, detailing the treatment the petitioner has received at their facility. Petitioner also submitted a character reference letter from her Riverside County probation officer, Magda Michelle, regarding the programs she has completed. That concludes my presentation of the documentary evidence and case history. I'm prepared to proceed with questions for the petitioner.
All right, before we get to that, let me find out from you, Ms. Burzynski, in addition to the petition package that Ms. Tyner has just addressed and has presented to the board, are there any additional documents that you want the board to consider as part of the process today?
I added some more reference
Okay.
letters, if that's.
Ms. Tyner, do you want to address that briefly?
Yeah, Your Honor, if I may, the petitioner, shortly before the proceedings started, provided some additional documents. I have those copies here, and Susan kindly made copies for the board and Your Honor that just came from my desk here.
Okay, so these are documents that were first presented today, and board members will be seeing them for the first time today. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right, I'm going to make the following suggestion. Ms. Tyner, if you could distribute those, and I'd like to take a brief recess so that the board members can at least quickly familiarize themselves with the information. And then when we come back on the record, Ms. Burzynski, I intend to have you sworn in. And then if you want to provide any statements, you can do that before we have questions that are asked of you.
Thank you.
All right? All right, so let's go off the record for a moment. Please. How many pages are we talking about? 3. First, I'd like to describe the 3 documents. I'm going to mark these collectively as Exhibit 2 to these proceedings. The first is a letter dated July 9, 2018. Letterhead is West Coast Environmental Solutions, and the writer is George Baird, B-A-I-R-D. The second letter is on the letterhead of A1 Watkins Pest and Termite Control. It's dated July 24, 2018. The letter writer is Wilfredo, W-I-L-L-F-R-E-D-O, Ham, H-A-M. The third letter just has an address as the letterhead. It's dated July 5, 2018. The letter writer is Jackie, J-A-C-K-I-E, S. Baird, B-A-I-R-D -Bunker, B-U-N-K-E-R. And these are collectively Exhibit 2 for identification. Ms. Tyner, you can certainly reserve on this if you'd like to hear any testimony, but at this point, is there any objection to Exhibit 2 becoming part of the record of the hearing?
No objection, Your Honor.
Very good. So Exhibit 2 is received in evidence. Ms. Burzynski, at this point, we're ready for your testimony, and what I'd like you to do is please stand and raise your right hand to be sworn in. You solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you'll give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Please have a seat. And if you would, please state your name again for the record and spell your last name.
Ireenie Agapitos Burzynski, and that's B as in boy, E-R-Z-I-N-S-K-I.
Thank you. And Ms. Burzynski, we'll start with any statement that you'd like to make for the record. It's very common for people to be nervous.
Yes.
We understand that.
Yes.
Sometimes when people are nervous, they speak quickly, so I may ask you to slow down. Sometimes the volume drops. I need to make sure everyone can hear you. That being said, I'm sure the board is very interested in your testimony, so please go right ahead.
I'm just asking a second chance to, to continue the work that I enjoy in the field. I'm asking that you guys don't define me by my past. That's it.
Okay. Thank you. And as I mentioned before, after some questions, you'll have another chance. If there's anything else that comes to mind,
Okay.
you can certainly add to your testimony. Ms. Tyner, are you ready to proceed with cross-examination?
Yes, Your Honor, thank you. Ms. Burzynski, do you have any criminal convictions that this board is unaware of?
No.
Are there any current criminal charges pending against you in this state or any other jurisdiction?
No.
Have you completed your probation from the 2015 convictions?
Absolutely.
Have you paid all the fines and fees associated with that 2015
Yes.
convictions? What rehabilitation programs are you currently in, or did you participate in?
I participated in several. The probation department offered an extensive care. I still attend meetings. I associate with them. No past relations. I've divorced since after a 20-year marriage. So, do better.
Ms. Burzynski, you mentioned that you've attended meetings.
Yes.
What type of meetings are those?
Narcotics Anonymous.
And how long have you been attending those meetings?
For 3.5 years now. Yeah.
And how frequently?
Twice a week.
Twice a week.
Yeah.
So, twice a week for 3.5 years, is that correct?
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, I might miss a couple here and there, but.
We're not here to relitigate past conduct from any of the convictions, but to assess your current fitness,
Right.
To practice and qualification to resume work as a field representative.
Right.
That said, your license was revoked for criminal convictions related to theft and substance abuse. What assurances can you provide the board that if your license was restored, that you would conduct yourself with honesty and integrity?
I can also add to, I wasn't employed at the time of that occurred. I'm sorry, what was your question? Sorry.
Let me rephrase, it was a bit lengthy. What assurances can you provide the board that if your license was reinstated, you would conduct yourself with honesty and integrity?
Well,
given your
of
past
course, there's no doubt about it. I can assure that.
Please keep your voice up.
Okay. There's no doubt in my mind, there's no reoccurring of anything that I have done in the past. I can assure that.
Your field rep license was revoked approximately 8 years ago.
Right.
What have you been doing in the field of pest control since then?
Well, I've been working with the A1 Watkins for the past, it'll be a year in February, studying. I still, old habits are kind of, when I go to people's homes, I still inform them, that they should seek out, a company to take care of their problems, because it's just habit. You notice, you notice the problems that homes have.
What, if anything, are you doing to remain current in the innovations in the field of pest control?
I've just been studying.
Can you share with us a little bit about what you have been studying?
Branch 2 and 3, the booklets for pest and termite.
So I heard branch 2 and 3, the booklets for pest and termite.
Yeah.
Any other sort of continuing education?
No, not really. Not really.
Are you currently employed?
Yes.
What are your job duties?
I do wood repair and office when there's no wood repair to be done. That's about it.
And if I heard correctly earlier, you're currently employed with A1 Watkins
Yes.
Pest and Termite.
Yes.
Thank you. Your license expired for non-renewal in 2008.
Right.
Would you be willing to retake the examination if the board required it?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Would you also be willing to participate in continuing education if
Yes.
the board required
Yes.
it? That concludes my questions, Your Honor. I will leave
Thank
it
you,
to the
Ms.
board.
Tyner. Let's start with board questions, starting on my left.
Thank you. Yes,
Okay.
Curtis Gunn. Mr. Burzynski, welcome. In your packet, you received a guidelines for petition for reinstatements.
Yes.
Can you tell me any community-type services or churches or anything that you're working with, or anything in that way?
Well, I attend church once a month or so. Community service. I used to help the homeless with clothing, and I used to do a service in Riverside with the social services. I had a account, you could say, with them that they would call and ask if I had furniture or clothing to help the homeless or the veterans that were just getting out of Loma Linda Hospital, a veterans hospital, and I would donate, to their needs, whatever they needed, clothing, furniture, for apartments, whatever they were able to get. That's what I did for the community anyways.
Okay, when you say you used to, how long ago was this? What time frame?
This was like 4 years ago, three and a half, 4 years ago.
Is there anything you're currently doing?
No. I'm just working, attending classes, the NA classes. Yeah.
And attending classes?
Well, they're not classes, they're meetings.
Okay, the narcotic
Yes,
classes
yes.
and stuff that you're attending twice
Yes,
a week?
yes.
Okay. And you think that's sufficient to keep your sobriety?
Absolutely. I don't have, I don't want to, everything has been my fault, of course, but being out of the marriage, it has made a big difference. I could say, the way it was a toxic marriage. So.
Okay. So you think that's removed and that's going to make things simpler in your life?
Absolutely. Yes.
You kind of mentioned earlier when you were being cross-examined that that you weren't employed when these instances occurred.
Right.
Were you separating the two?
Was I separating the two?
Like the loss of a license, that you weren't working at the time and there was something about you wouldn't lose your license if you were being employed at that time?
No, I wasn't, no, I was just stating that I wasn't employed when that situation happened, you know.
Because there is a tail to people's criminal background
Right.
that follows them. That's
Right.
why we have our licensees go through a full background check.
Right.
I mean, obviously, you know the industry well, that you're providing the keys to people's homes.
Absolutely, yes,
So it is a
yeah.
great concern
Right.
for this board.
Of course.
Obviously, A1 knows your background.
Yes,
They've written
yes.
a letter on your behalf.
Yes.
Is there anything else that you can share about your rehabilitation that would assure this board?
Well, I did, like the letter from Licata, I was there for 4 months, which was a great program. And then, being out on probation, that was another 6 months of classes and responsibilities, you know, to make sure that you finish everything, you know.
I have no further questions.
Thank you for coming here today, Ms. Burzynski. On your petition for reinstatement, under the question about since your date of revocation, you answered yes to having been convicted of a criminal offense. Could you provide a little more detail about exactly when that occurred and what the offense was?
Are you talking about the one 2008 or
Well,
most
that's
recent?
what I'm asking. It says since you lost your license in 2009,
9, okay.
have you been involved in the question is, have you been involved in any of the following situations? And one of the situations is that you answered yes to.
Yes, right.
Was that you had been convicted of a criminal offense.
Yes, that was in 2014. What would you like to know about it? The situation? What happened?
Well, I'd like you to describe what the offense was. And
The
what-
offense was, there was drugs involved. My husband was arrested out front for having drugs in his pocket. He had a gun in his closet, which I didn't know about. And so when they searched the house, that's what they found.
So were
Because of
you-
my past history, I didn't, I didn't have a lawyer, so I just accepted the charges and, it's not like, it's not all his fault. I knew that what he was doing but I didn't know there was a gun in the closet.
But you were arrested and-
For possession of a controlled substance and a firearm, yeah, which I wasn't in possession of either one, but I didn't have the lawyer to,
And what was the consequence to you
I was sentenced to 4 years and 4 months
of
prison,
prison?
yes.
And did you serve that entire?
No, I did half-time. I ended up doing 21 months and then was released to the Licata program.
Okay. And are you currently, have you
I finished
served?
everything.
So you're not on parole
No,
or probation?
no.
So-
I completed all my classes, all the stipulations, everything.
And when was that completion done?
2016,
Okay.
towards the end of the year. I graduated, I was able to get my GED from the probation department, 2016, yeah.
You got your GED while you were on probation for
Yeah.
that most recent
Yes, yes,
conviction? And so none of these looks like I guess the Licata program that you were in?
Right.
Was that a requirement of your probation? Or
That was before that was an in-custody program.
Okay.
After the 21 months, they they send you to do an in-custody program where they allow you to go out and work, but I wasn't there long enough to participate in that. I was there only 4 months.
And your participation in Narcotics Anonymous, that's voluntary?
Yes, yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Questions?
Mike Duran, industry member. Mrs. Burzynski, are you now or have you in the past year taken any classes or courses for continued education purposes in the pest control industry?
No, the only thing I've been studying is the booklets, and I've taken the test on the computer just to see how I would do. You know, that's about it.
When you state that you've taken the test in the computer, was that just recently? Or?
That was about April or May is when I did it, I believe. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Any questions, Mr. Negative, sir. No questions? All right. So, Ms. Burzynski, if there's any additional information that's come to mind that you'd like to direct the board to, now's your chance, and then we'll see if there's any follow-up questions.
Okay. I'm so nervous I can't think of anything. No.
All right. Thank you. Ms. Tyner, is there follow-up questions that you have?
No, Your Honor.
All right. And let me again ask board members for any follow-up questions they might have, starting on my left.
Maybe just a couple.
Go ahead.
The conviction back in, was it 2014?
Yes.
Just out of curiosity, was your husband also arrested?
Yes. Yes.
You just referenced that you were taking some online tests
Yes.
on the computer?
Yes.
Was that from a
It was from
industry
the-
vendor provider?
It was, well, I went on to Structural Pest Control Board, and you guys have a test that you provide online.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
When did you divorce?
2016, July was final.
And is your ex-husband completely out of your life?
Well, I mean, no, we have a daughter together, so,
Oh, okay.
yeah. But, yes, yes.
Okay. But you don't have a continuing
No,
relationship?
we don't, no, no.
Thank you.
All right. Further questions?
Not from me.
Anything else? All right. Ms. Burzynski, in these proceedings, technically you have the burden of proof, but I'm going to ask Ms. Tyner if she has any concluding statements she'd like to make, unless you object. I would have you go first, then have Ms. Burzynski make any statement she has. The party with the burden would have the last word on the record.
The people who completed their presentation, thank you.
All right. Ms. Tyner, thank you very much. Ms. Burzynski, anything else come to mind that you'd like the board to consider as part of the process today?
No, I think I'm good.
All right. I may not have mentioned this earlier, but once the board has made a decision in executive session, I then write a decision for the board to review
Okay.
and then decide if they want to adopt it. It's likely to be a few months before you hear an outcome.
Okay,
Any other questions that I could help you with?
no.
All right, Ms. Burzynski, I thank you very much for being here. Ms. Steiner, appreciate your presentation.
Thank
We
you.
will close the record in this matter at this time. Let's go off the record. Excuse me, Ms. Burzynski?
Yes.
You may want to have a seat. The court reporter has to fill out an information sheet about the transcript. It'll take a minute or two, and she'll have a copy of that for you. We're going to wait for the court reporter to finish up with that before we proceed with the next matter. However, Mr. Agpalasan, if we could have you come up to the table. Thank you. And before we go on the record, are there any additional materials that you've brought with you today?
I brought my performance review from my manager.
So
I
this
didn't
is
know.
something that was not included in your
No,
petition
I
papers?
was able to print it out last night.
Okay, perhaps Ms. Tyner wants to take a look at that, and we may need to take a moment to have copies.
I have copies.
You do. Fantastic. Thank you.
There's no more to you. Okay.
All right, folks, it's my guess it'll be a few minutes before we proceed. If you want to use the restrooms or stretch your legs, that's
Everything that. Okay.
people come back to order, please? Thank you. What's that? All right, we're opening the record. This is in the matter of the petition for modification or termination of probation. It relates to James Bernd Marty Agpalasan. The board's prior statement of issues number was 2016-18, and the Office of Administrative Hearings file number is 2018-060961. And for the record, we're here at the board meeting in Claremont. It is July 26, 2018. Let me start by asking the representative of the Attorney General's office to identify herself for the record.
Good morning, Melissa Tyner, Deputy Attorney General, appearing on behalf of the people of the state of California pursuant to Government Code Section 11522.
Thank you, Ms. Tyner. And Mr. Agpalasan, could I have you please state your full name for the record?
Yeah, it's James Bernd Marty Agpalasan.
Thank you. And my name is David Rosenman. I'm an administrative law judge with the Office of Administrative Hearings, and I've been assigned to sit with the board and preside over these proceedings. Mr. Agpalasan, you were present when I explained generally how these matters would proceed. Is that correct?
Yes.
And you were present during the prior hearing?
Yes.
All right. We'll follow generally the same procedures, but I want to remind you that once Ms. Tyner has made her presentation, we will have you sworn in, and that way any statement you make to the board will be under oath. I understand that you brought some additional materials with you. Once Ms. Tyner has presented the petition, we'll distribute those to board members, and we'll take a short recess so that board members are prepared to discuss that. Do you have any questions about anything I've said or anything else about the process that I might be able to answer for you? No. All right. And if anything comes up during the hearing and you're not sure what it means or you have a question, please ask.
Okay.
All right. And Ms. Tyner, you may proceed. You're going to proceed first with presenting the petition.
Yes, Your Honor.
Please, go right ahead.
I'd like to first mark for identification and offer into evidence as Exhibit 1 the original petition packet with accompanying documents. The board members and petitioner have been provided with a copy of the same set of this exhibit. Exhibit 1 consists of the following. Correspondence from the board dated June 4th, 2018, providing notice of today's hearing and confirming petitioner's appearance. Confirmation request from petitioner dated June 5th, 2018. A copy of the guidelines for petitions for reinstatement provided to petitioner. The petition for modification termination of probation application with attachments A through C. Character reference letters, continuing education certificates, an academic transcript, and information about the completion of criminal probation. A decision and order adopted by the board effective May 4th, 2016, which placed petitioner's FR license on 3 years probation with terms and conditions. All quarterly probationary inspection requests for service submitted by petitioner indicating the petitioner was currently in compliance with probation. Petitioner's license history certifications for field rep license number FR 51615 and applicator license number RA 58223. In addition, there's also probation inspection reports from Inspector Tom Anichin dated July 18th, 2016 and June 10th, 2017, respectively. I'm prepared to continue with the summary of the case, unless Your Honor would like to pause for that session.
All right. First, let me note that the documents that were described by Ms. Tyner are marked for identification as Exhibit 1 to these proceedings. Ms. Tyner, do you have any objection to Exhibit 1 being received in evidence?
No.
Thank you. So Exhibit 1 will be received. And I understand that Mr. Agpalasan provided some additional material. Mr. Agpalasan, can I just have you quickly give us an idea of what that additional material is?
Yeah, it was my performance review from 2017.
All right.
From my
All right.
manager.
Thank you. So I understand that you provided copies. I appreciate that. Ms. Tyner, if you would at this time distribute that material to board members, or if you have that, Mr. Agpalasan?
Yeah.
Perhaps I could have Ms. Tyner distribute it.
Okay.
Thank you. And what we're going to do is to take a short recess. Let me take a look at the material first to get an idea of how much time we should be in recess for. Thank you. All right, we have a 2-page document What I'm going to do is mark this for identification as Exhibit 2 to these proceedings, and it's identified as described by Mr. Ekbalassen. We're going to take a very brief recess so that the board members can familiarize themselves with this material, and then we'll come back for Ms. Tyner's presentation and testimony. So we're off the record. This will be about a 5-minute recess, folks. Actually, a little. Ms. Tyner, do you have any objection to Exhibit 2 being received in evidence?
No objection, Your Honor.
Thank you. Exhibit 2 is received. And at this point, Ms. Tyner, if there's an opening statement you'd like to make, please go right ahead.
Yes, Your Honor, thank you. On or around April 30th, 2015, the board received an application for an applicator's license from the petitioner. The board initially denied the application on May 13th, 2015. The factual circumstances surrounding the initial denial of petitioner's licensure application are that on or around May 22nd, 2012, petitioner was convicted of having violated Penal Code Section 427, grand theft. Further, on March 14th, 2006, petitioner was convicted of having violated Penal Code Section 460, subsection B, burglary. On or around December 10th, 2015, petitioner signed a stipulated settlement agreement admitting the truth of each and every charge in the statement of issues and agreeing to 3 years probation with terms and conditions. The stipulation and final decision became effective February 2nd, 2016. Probation inspection reports from Inspector Tom Meechan dated July 18th, 2016 and June 10th, 2017 respectively show the petitioner has been in compliance with his probation terms. Further, quarterly probation inspection requests for service submitted by the petitioner further indicate petitioner is currently in compliance with terms of probation. The petitioner submitted character reference letters from his current employer, Ecolab. Petitioner has also submitted 6 certificates showing completion of continuing education in the area of pest management, as well as an academic transcript reflecting the completion of courses in a variety of subjects. On or around February 22nd, 2018, the respondent filed a petition for reinstatement, a petition for early termination for probation, and submitted the documents I just listed in support of his petition. This concludes my presentation of the documentary evidence and case history. I'm prepared to proceed with questions.
All right, thank you very much, Ms. Tyner. Mr. Ekbalassen, as you've seen in the prior proceeding, the next step would be for me to swear you in so that you can provide testimony under oath. If you would, please stand and raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you'll give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you. Please be seated. Please state your name again and spell your last name.
James Byrne Marty Agpalasin, Agpalasin.
Thank you, Mr. Ekbalassen. If you have any testimony you'd like to give, any presentation to the board, now would be the time. Once you've completed that, Ms. Tyner may have questions, board members may have questions. We'll come back to you for anything else that you'd like to add and have another round of questions. That being said, I'm sure the board will be very interested in your testimony. Go ahead, sir.
A lot of the stuff that happened in my past was in my past, and it, you know, I did what I needed to do to make sure, you know, I wasn't in the more of a down area of my life. Both those convictions, they were expunged not too long ago, I guess the same time as when I was applying for my pest license. I think that's in the booklet too. Currently, I'm going to school. I have 2 kids. You know, I'm just trying to make a better life for them. Me being on probation for my pest license holds me from moving up in the company. And I would like to move up and, you know, give a better life for my family.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Ekbalassen. Before we have questions, Ms. Tyner, Mr. Ekbalassen mentioned expungement of the convictions. Is there documentation in the petition relating to that, to your knowledge?
There is document provided by the respondent in the petition, and that appears in the petitioner submission between pages 846. I can find the specific page if you give me a moment.
All right. I believe I've seen it as well. Actually, as I look at page 35, it references the filing of the petition, and page 36, an expungement order.
That's what I see as well.
Okay, thank you. All right. Ms. Steiner, questions for Mr. Ekwelassen?
Yes, thank you. Do you have any criminal convictions that the board is unaware of?
No.
Are there any current criminal charges pending against you in this state or any other jurisdiction?
No.
Are you currently employed with Ecolab, is that correct?
Yes.
And what are your job duties?
I support the night team with a lot of try to help them problem solve what's going on, you know, in SF. Help with some admin duties, time cards, you know, yeah, stuff like that.
You provided several character reference letters to the board from your colleagues at Ecolab.
Yeah.
How do you think that these letters demonstrate that you're safe to conduct yourself without probation monitoring at this time?
I think they're good references because they're both one's my manager, and the other one's the regional manager. So, yeah.
Is there anything specific in those letters that you think demonstrates to the board that you are able to practice without probation?
They show that I'm. What was the question? I'm sorry.
I was asking a follow-up to my initial question, which was were there any specific qualities that were mentioned by your colleagues from Ecolab that you think demonstrate your ability to practice safely without probation monitoring?
Basically, there a lot. When I overread their letters, it was just saying that I was, you know, I could hold my own. I can. They trust me on, you know, being by myself at night and helping others at night. So we go into a lot of businesses, so they put all their trust in me to get it right.
You also submitted an academic transcript with several courses completed.
Yeah.
The institution that issued this transcript is not clear from the document itself. Where are you taking classes?
I'm taking classes at Solano Community College, going for my business license. Or business, I'm sorry, business, my my bachelor's.
Do you plan to continue at Solano Community College in pursuit of your bachelor's?
Yeah, I have 3 more classes to go. I take 1 class every semester just because of family, my job. It just takes up a lot of time, so.
You submitted certificates for completion of several continuing education courses.
Yeah.
How have these courses enhanced your expertise?
A lot of that was, it was all online courses, and it was a good refresher on some things I forgot. So.
Do you plan on continuing to take continuing education courses? What assurances can you provide the board this morning that if your probation was terminated, you would conduct yourself with honesty and integrity in dealing with the public?
All I can give you is my word. You know, I surrounded myself with people I shouldn't have, and that's what got me caught up. Right now, it's just my work, my job, my family, my kids. You know, that's all I do.
I've completed my questions and will now defer to the board for further questioning.
Thank you, Ms. Steiner. And let me start again on my left. Any questions by board members? Go ahead.
Yes, Curtis Good, welcome. The 2 gentlemen from Ecolab that have written these letters on your behalf, Mr. French and Zender, do you know these individuals personally?
Personally, no. Just when I got to the company, I just know them as my superiors, and we built, you know, the work relation from there.
I know you
That
had.
that makes sense, or?
Well, I know Ecolab's a very large company, so I wonder if they really know you personally, is my point, is where I'm going with this.
Oh, okay. Michael Zender, we talked. We got to know each other better outside of work, so you know we got that relationship outside of work. And then Jake French, it's still more of a business kind of relationship.
I know you're going through your probation and quarterly reports, and Mr. Eichen, were these two gentlemen, were they fully aware of your prior history? What got you in trouble?
Before?
Of your convictions?
When I went for my license, when I was denied, the applicators, they weren't aware. And then once I was denied, you know, I let them know, you know, ahead that this is what was going on, like why I got denied and what I was doing at that time. Because at the same time of me applying for my applicator, I was doing my expungement paperwork at the same time. So, yeah.
Because it seems like these letters, I mean, they know you from a work environment, not personally. So these were really testimonies that I would say about your personal character,
Okay.
that what initially got you in trouble.
Well, Mr. Good, let me point out, you've just made a statement. You haven't really
Yeah.
asked a question
I get it.
that Mr. Aklassen can respond to.
You don't have any other testimonials about your personal character?
No.
And where you were and where you are today?
No. Not with me right now.
I know you've cited regarding your kids and your children. I think you have a 5-year-old and a 14-year-old?
Yes.
And you reference that's what's keeping you straight.
Yeah, because I just want to be a role model to them, and that's why I went back to school too.
Okay.
You know, like my daughter's 14,
Yes.
you know, and she knows that my dad didn't go to finish college, but you know, I wanted to show her that I can finish, you know. So.
Well, it sounds like you're on the right path, but why wasn't that a factor in 2011 when you had the embezzlement charge?
It was just the people that was involved, like I was surrounded with, like the friends, so-called friends that I had.
Any community services? Are you working with your children's any baseball teams, or are you doing anything that way?
No. I did community service when I was on my first offense. I did community service. It was feeding the hungry. Other than that, there hasn't been any documented community service. I mean, we did last Christmas or 2 Christmases ago, we fed the hungry, you know, so I mean it's not on there, but you know, it's what we do.
Okay, well, thank you. This is for an early termination of your probation, so your probation, if I'm correct, it ends in February of 2019.
I'm not too sure. I know it's 20.
I think that's what it is. Anyway, so what is really on the line for you? There's some advancement opportunities with the
I just want to advance, you know, and just try to make things a little bit easier on my managers too, you know, because they have to take time out of their day as well, you know, to schedule meetings with Tom. I don't mind that, you know, but I rather, you know, be more productive in other things, you know. So it's just kind of like a burden on my shoulder also. Like I want to
look past all this, yes. So what does this really look like, this advancement? What would your job duties be?
Right now I'm assistant, and I want to move up to district manager.
Thank you. I have no further questions. Thank you.
Questions?
Yes, Dave Tamayo. What was your punishment for the crimes that you committed?
I did restitution. I paid the restitution from the previous one, the most recent one, and the one back in 05-06 was community service.
Okay.
I did spend a little bit of time on the embezzlement charge. It was just a lot of it was going in and out, you know, and trying to figure stuff out, you know, before like the court. Like I was inside, like I went to jail, and then I got bailed out, but then I got remanded again, and then my wife bailed me out again, and then they considered that part of time spent, and I paid the restitution for what was taken.
So, you said that you've disassociated yourself with people who were bad influences.
Yeah.
What, when did you start that separation from those folks?
As soon as my wife bailed me out the first time, you know, she basically laid it all out for me, and I'm just trying to do it right now.
And what sort of support do you have in maintaining your distance from?
I moved away from where I was at before, so it's just cut all ties.
Mhm.
I just let it go and did my own thing, found a new job, you know, and I mean, after that incident, you know, I started at changing oil, you know, and did what I needed to do to, you know, survive and, you know, keep active on, you know, with myself.
The company that you currently work for, is that a structural pest control business?
Yeah.
And you said that you supervise people on the night shift? Is that
I watch
correct?
over them. The final decision is with my boss, but I help, you know, decide some factors at night.
But those are those folks who are licensed by this board, they're applicators?
Yes, they're licensed.
Okay. And what do you do or what are the nature of your duties with that, and how do you?
With them, I try to find their problem accounts, and we try to figure out, you know, what can we do to solve the problem.
Who makes the decision on what?
Michael Zender. You know, after we go through it, inspect, and check everything out, you know, we'll apply the product and what we need to do, and I'll follow up with my manager, and he'll make the final decision on things.
Okay. How much of your day is taken up by your work towards your, is it an associate degree? Or
How much of my day?
Yeah.
I go to class, this week was the first week of the new semester. It's twice a week for 2 hours. So 2 hours in class time, and then, I don't know, 5 hours is probably gonna be my study time.
Okay.
And I gotta fit that in somewhere.
All right. Thank you, that's all I have for now.
Thank you. Mike Duran, industry member. Mr. Aquilation, this ordeal started when you failed to, with the denial of the application, or your applicators for the
Yeah.
application, where you failed to disclose these charges against you. Were you under the impression that because you were getting the cases expunged, you didn't have to report it? Can you elaborate a little bit?
Yeah, I honestly didn't know until you know, it happened, and then I did my research, and I didn't know, like, you know, stuff like that would need to be presented. I know after I read that, you know, I also did my, I guess, credentials for the airport, so I had to disclose that because I didn't know. Now I know, but at that time I didn't know that I needed to.
Thank you very much.
How long have you been on probation?
A little over 2 years.
You did your formal and your summary, right?
What's that?
Your summary as well, right? Over 2 years. Well, all your probation's done, yes?
Oh, my probation with the county, yes. The pest board, no.
What county was when?
Last year we did early termination with that too.
Oh, you did,
Yeah.
okay, you did early termination.
Early termination, expungement, last year.
Thank you.
Mr. Ekblasen, are there any other statements, any other information that you'd like the board to be aware of as part of the hearing in your petition?
No, I don't have anything else.
All right, Ms. Tyner, any follow-up?
I do have a few follow-up questions.
Go right ahead.
Mr. Ekblasen, you, in your initial application, disclosed the 2012 conviction, not the 2006 conviction. Is that correct? Do you
What?
recall? In your initial application to the board for your
Oh
license?
yeah, I did the 12, but the one that was back in 06 I didn't because of how far back it was.
So just for abundance of clarity, you disclosed the 2012, but not the 2006
Right.
conviction. Thank you.
When I got denied, that's yeah.
Thank you. And one more clarifying question. You had both of these convictions, the 2012 and the 2006 expunged?
Yes.
No further questions, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Tyner. Let's go back to board questions, again, starting on my left.
I don't
Any
have
questions?
No questions.
No further questions, all right. So we're at the point where there are closing statements, if either side wishes to make one. Ms. Tyner, do you have any objection to going first with that?
No objection.
And is there a closing statement you'd like to make?
The people have completed their presentation. Thank you.
And again, Mr. Ekblasen, if there's any other comment you'd like to make or any summary, now would be the chance.
No, I don't have anything else.
All right, I want to thank you for coming in, Ms. Tyner. I appreciate your presentation. And at this point, we will consider the record to be closed. The case is under submission. Thank you. Again, Ms. Ekblasen, the court reporter needs a few minutes to fill out an information sheet.
Okay.
She'll hand that to you, and you're free to go. We'll wait a minute until the court reporter is done.
This is just in case you ever need a quarter copy of these. Oh, no, it gives you information. So if you ever want a copy of these, you would just call them and they would ask you.
Move over to one of these tables for deliberations. It's easier for me
Yeah.
to sort of keep track of what's going on. Thank you. Public and estimate of time, or I could ask Ms. Knight about that.
Yeah, we have other.
I know you've got other things there.
Yeah, so.
I'll find out from her what
No, I know.
to a closed session to deliberate on the petitions, and I'm going to give an educated guess that it may be as long as an hour. You can certainly come back sooner and see if the board is open for business, but at this point, we need to clear the room. And again, I want to thank you folks for being present. Thank you.
Call us back into open session. Our first item of business is review and approval of the April 18th and 19th board meeting minutes and the May 22nd teleconference board meeting minutes. I think we'll do those separately. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second to approve. Now I do need to see if there's any discussion amongst the board on that. And is there any comment from the public on the minutes? All right, seeing no discussion, we'll go ahead and do a vote.
Okay, Dave Smith,
Yes.
Curtis Good,
Yes.
Mike Duran,
Here.
and Savon Hernandez.
Yes.
Okay, so that motion passes. Our next item is an update from the Department of Consumer Affairs, and we don't have a representative from the department, and they did provide us with a memo on dated July 26th this year, and I would just like request that we put the memo into the record of our meeting. And,
For meeting materials and minutes, okay?
yeah, so. The next item is presentation and possible approval of research proposals recommended by the Research Advisory Panel, and I did not participate in those. Sabina, would you care to give a little bit of background on?
Right, so what you have in your packet are summaries of the research proposals. Curtis Good also participated in the committee meeting. It was a great discussion, and they went through each of them and they scored them. And what you see in your in the summary table are the scores, and the requested funding, and the proposed term of the research, and the subject matter on the right-hand side. And the committee basically recommended, you know, it's up to the board, of course, if they're going to deplete the fund at this time as the with the top research proposals, sorry. Or if they're going to, it's up to the board's discretion about what they're going to award. But this is the order in which they were recommended to the full board, and then it's up to the full board today to decide what to award. And Mike, I guess that's.
Yeah, I was at the final, where all the presentations, where we went through all the final subject matters. They were very, very, very thorough. I mean, there was everything there, I don't know if they're back there with that, but they're extremely very thorough. And I'd like to thank all the researchers that provided to the board. There's some outstanding research opportunities for this board, and that would actually very much benefit the consumers of the state. And I think the origin is, I think it goes back to PCOC, and kudos to the industry for help funding this matter. So I'm very excited that we finally can maybe move forward on this matter and get some money in the hands of some very needed research.
So currently there's approximately $1 million in the account.
It's slightly over.
Yes, projected for June 30th of 2018, there was $1,035,000 projected to be in the fund as of close of business for last fiscal year. Of course, we don't have the final closing documents, but usually the projections are really, really close.
Okay, so do I have any questions from the board about this?
I have one. There was 9 total submissions, all total, and then we have 5 that were actually recommended.
Well, those are the top 5, Mike, and those 5 totaling would deplete the fund that was projected as of June 30th, 2018. So if you approve those 5, it would completely deplete the fund with the projected revenue for June 30th of 2018.
So the fund that we have is $1,023,827 or something?
I wanted to say it was $1,035,000, but we're close.
Okay, so if I understand this correctly, we're supposed to accept or to choose from the 9 or from the 5? Or?
Well, so there were 9 proposals. And they were scored as request. You know, we got the scores back from the committee. We can, and as we have the opportunity to say we're just doing the top 1, then we're going to do that. So it's in our discretion now. So we weren't given direction, but we were giving the scores, and one possibility is to say,
I understand.
well, let's go with the top 5. We could do it otherwise if we wanted.
Okay, I understand now. Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah. Servando?
That's nothing, sir.
So, Curtis?
I liked all the proposals. The committee was pretty unanimous, just to share with everybody in their scoring practices. It was very close, but I think that everybody kind of found that the average scoring averages, it was very interesting. And I just got onto that committee, and for me to kind of come in at the very 11th hour, I found it very interesting that I had similar feelings as some of the others that I participated with in coming up with those scores. I think I'd like to see us move forward, if it fits the budget, taking the top 5 and granting that research.
And would that be a motion?
I would make that motion.
I will second that motion.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Does anybody else on the board want to speak to the motion right now? Okay, do we have comments from the public?
Just a
yeah.
clarification, are you talking about the top 5 in the order that we would be seeing them in our agenda packet?
Top 5 scores.
Okay, thank you.
No comments from the public?
I have a question, Bob Gordon with Gordon Termite Control. Item number 2, for the development of evaluation of baiting strategies for the control of pest yellow jackets in California. Hadn't we done this one already?
No, and I found that very interesting too. I thought, well, you know, kind of interesting, but actually, and I apologize, Bobby, I didn't bring everything with me, but there's some really great research that would come out of this and opportunities, even though maybe it won't impact a lot of the industry, but actually for a lot of our national parks and residents of the state, there could be some outstanding research that would come out of that would dramatically improve a lot of the stings and.
The previous one was about baiting, and they were doing it in a park situation. And I was curious as to how that related to structural pest control, being that this baiting strategy was in a park situation and not affecting the urban or structures of California. Being the Structural Pest Control Board, I thought it might be more specific to homes and residences as opposed to national parks.
Yeah.
And maybe that ought to be on an ag side of it as opposed to the structural funding.
Yeah, if I recall, the committee did kind of discuss that, but a lot of the research, because there's much more opportunity to do some of the research in that environment, that it would definitely impact yellow jackets throughout the entire state. I did have the same kind of concerns initially, but the committee, we did discuss that.
Thank
I want to clarify also, Susan reminded me, part of your motion would be to then be directing and delegating the executive officer to be proceeding forward with securing these contracts and, correct?
Yes.
Okay, who made the motion?
I did.
And so you're okay with adding that
Yes.
direction?
Yes.
Okay, so that'll be the motion that we're working on right now. So, any other comments from the public?
No, I just.
Shay?
Yeah, just a question. So if we have 5 projects, top 5, and if we add up the funding, how much could the total gonna be?
That pretty much depletes the entire budget. It's pretty darn close. And I just did a quick number on it, and that comes to about 1.25 thousand.
Right. My recollection is it comes to $1,025,000, and projected there was going to be $1,035,000 in the fund for June 30th of 2018.
Okay, so completely depleting the funding that way,
Right.
With a budget.
with the budget.
Yeah.
And what is the rate at which the budget gets added back in? So-
We average 60,000 pesticide use stamps sold each fiscal year, and $2 of the cost for that pesticide use stamp goes into the research fund. So average revenue is about $120,000 a year.
Okay, all right,
So it does take several years, of course, to build it back up.
okay.
But it has been a number of years since we've had.
Right,
Right.
yeah.
Because the last one was 2010, and those contracts went into 2012.
Sure.
It's been a long time.
Right, they went into 2012.
That's reasonable.
Okay. Anything else from the public? Appears that we are ready for a vote. We have a motion and a second on the table.
Dave Smile?
Yes.
Curtis Good?
Yes.
Mike Duran?
Yes.
And Stefan Menendez?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much. Many thanks to the committee participants. Our next item is, let me just read this off. Discussion and possible action on Structural Pest Control Board Research Fund disbursement schedule. And, we did receive a letter from a number of folks in researchers who expressed concern that we should have a more predictable schedule for how these things go. And, frankly, I agree with that. So, I mean, we had a hiatus because we just didn't have the funding, and then I think really just getting back into the groove, we didn't do it as timely as perhaps we could have. So I think we probably should consider what a reasonable schedule is. Susan?
It is very difficult. And like this proposal, I mean, we started working on this in 2016, and now here we are, July of 2018.
Yeah.
So it is very difficult. This was also one of the questions raised during our sunset review process. And I told the committee at that time that my intention was to make this something annually that's reviewed every October at our annual meeting, so that you'd have opportunity to review the research fund and how much is in the fund at that time every October.
And
if
then,
that's agreeable to the board members.
yeah, and I think it'd be helpful to have make sure that we always have sort of a schedule for the committee to meet to do the reviews, because sometimes it takes a little while. Okay, who's going to be on it? Make sure that it's on their schedule, and that extends things out too. So if we could maybe have report back with a sort of the plan or just schedule for the underlying actions that need to take place, so that that's more predictable, so that we make sure that we know that we're going to have a committee in place. We know when if we decide that we're going to go ahead and seek projects, that we should have a schedule for how that's going to take place. When does it get released? When does it get released? When does it get reviewed? That type of thing. So perhaps we wouldn't do it every year, but at least we'd have the pieces in place, the expectations in place. So what I would suggest is that maybe you could give that some thought and figure out what needs to be in place, and we can get a report back in October.
Yeah, we'll have a better idea of projected funding by then also, or the rate, because it's not always consistent.
Well, I would, of course, need to work with Department of Consumer Affairs to see if they can kind of give me their timeline as well, as far as review process.
It's worth their mercy.
Right.
Okay. All right, any comments from the board?
Not for me.
Curtis? Comments from the public? All right. So anyway, thank you for your input on that. I know there's a couple of folks here who were signatories to that, so thank you very much for calling that to our attention, and I guess really sort of holding our feet to the fire on it. So we do agree that would be a preferable way to do that going forward. So we're going to move on to our next item, which is our executive officer's report. Susan.
So your licensing statistics and survey results and WDO statistics are in your board packages. If you have questions, I'll answer questions on those. I only have a couple other things I was going to report on. Our new CCR, our new regulation section that required all current licensees that were previously licensed and did not have LifeScan, section 1960, went into effect on January 1st of 2016. So in 2016, the individuals that had to renew that year had to go get LifeScan. So that 3-year process was for 2016, 2017, and 2018. We initially identified just over 5,000 individuals. We have it now down to, there's about 200 individuals who need to get LifeScan for the renewal period of June 30th of 2018. They have not done that yet and are already in the delinquent stage. So we believe that those individuals are probably going to let their license lapse. So just an update for you folks.
Okay.
We did have one specialist that I mentioned in April that retired effective April, and that was Fred Bartley. He retired in effective April. We have now been notified by another specialist, Ed Ackerman. Ed Ackerman is also in the Bay Area, and he's notified us that he's officially retiring at the end of September. So our plan is to, my current plan, working with Robert and Enforcement, is to probably bring on 2 individuals at one time and train them both at the same time in our office in Sacramento as usual for several weeks before we put them out there in the field.
Any questions from the board? Curtis?
Yeah, I received an email from Jamie Ogle with Lloyd's Pest Control, thanking Susan and her staff for, the licensing going through the system, and want to commend the staff and Structural Pest Control Board. So kudos to you and your staff for helping them get a difficult individual license.
Thank you.
Anything from the public? Okay, so we will move on to our next item, which is regulations and possible action, Title 16 CCR, Section 1997. And so, what's going on?
So, previous board meeting, board members approved doing a regulation change to increase our WDO fee from the current $2.50 in regulation to the current cap of $3 in regulation. That regulation package was submitted to legal. It is moving its way through the process. We're not sure, I'm hopeful that we would have a public hearing in January. Sabina tells me I'm dreaming.
It's off my desk.
Yes, Sabina moved it on. I had hoped for an effective date of July 1st of 19. Just so you're aware that it may get pushed back to October of 2019.
We'll do our best to stay on top of it.
Okay.
I spoke to budgets earlier in the week and they have it now too, so it's moving.
They have to.
They have it.
Okay, any comments from the board? Anything from the public? All right, so we'll move on to our next item, which is legislation updates. Susan?
So there's 4 bills that are in your board packages. I'll just make a couple comments on some of them. AB 2138 is a bill that you board members oppose unless we were deleted from that language. We were not deleted, but the language was amended substantially in May. This is a much, much better version than what we originally saw. And I'm sure that you board members would agree that we can function within our current guidelines and maintain our focus on consumer protection within these new amended versions. So this still is moving forward. Of course, they're at recess until August. So they come back in August and then they'll be picking up bills again and moving them forward. The next one in your board package is SB 721. SB 721 requires the inspection of decks and balconies for all 3 or more multi-family dwellings, starting in January 1st of 2025, and then every 6 years thereafter. There was some communication from the author's office months ago with some information that the structural pest control licensees may be brought into this legislation. Chris Reardon, you may want to speak to this, but Chris Reardon, Darren Van Steenwyk, and Jim Steed met with the author's office, and we were not amended into this bill, but Chris, do you want to?
Yeah, I just wanted to thank you, Susan. There was initial discussion, Senator Hill's office, and just let me back up a second. The city of Berkeley allows the Structural Pest Control Board operators in the city to be part of this process that allows certification on the structural integrity of balconies in porches and things of that nature. We had significant concerns with that because we're not engineers. We shouldn't be part of, quote, the structural integrity portion of that. As you know, we get into the whole issue of what the pest does, the termite does, but we shouldn't be part of that certification process because we're not qualified engineers. So we wanted to make sure, because there is a small group within our industry that wanted us to be in that legislation by Senator Hill. We had a discussion about this again at our board meeting in June, and we made a motion to say that we didn't want to be part of this legislation, and we didn't want to be part of the certification process as it relates to declaring structural integrity of a balcony, deck, etc. So we actually worked with Senator Hill. Susan was in that discussion as well to make sure that our industry and the board wasn't involved in that discussion. Now, there's going to be broader discussions in the next couple of years because I think there is a small group of folks that are vocal and loud that want us to be engaged in that discussion or in the certification process. But as an organization, we oppose that, and we let Senator Hill know that as well. So.
Yeah. I understand where you're coming from on that, but is there provision for your industry to be consulted as to whether there are wood-destroying organisms
Correct.
present, and so that's a separate
That's
part?
a separate item. And by the way, we said, if you wanted to include it in legislation, you'd have to define our role, and that's exactly what we do. But as it relates to,
Sure.
you know what I mean, define our role. But I think they wanted to tie it, and we understand people have a different point of view on this, or a small group has a different point of view.
Yeah, okay.
So.
Thank you. Any other members of the public care to comment on this? Anything else from the board? So, Susan, do you want to keep going on your?
Sure. The next bill is SB 984. This bill identifies that in the future, boards and commissions such as yourself would have a requirement to have, if there's 5 or more board members, would have a requirement to have 40% of those members identified as women on the board. And it goes into effect 1/1/2024. Like I said, the bill is moving forward. They're in recess right now, but they come back in August. So this is for your information.
So can we self-identify as women?
Yes, you can, according to the bill.
All right.
And then those statistics are going to be gathered and posted on our website.
Okay. Any discussion on that? So, anything from the public? Okay.
Okay, and the last thing in your board package is our sunset bill. So it's SB 1481. The last hearing was June 26th. The vote was 6-0. I don't see any problems getting this through or approved. This bill, for informational purposes, as all of you know, the Act Review Committee, and there's a couple members in the audience here with us today, the Act Review Committee met over 30 times in a period of 4 years. They made numerous recommendations to update the Pest Control Act. That had not been, I don't know, ever done, Curtis?
Not that long.
Not in the last several decades.
Not that long.
So within SB 1481, I was able to get the last of the Act Review Committee's recommendations in our sunset bill. along with a couple of recommendations that staff made over the last couple of years that all of you board members have also seen and approved in the past. So just informational wise.
That's actually really good news. It's yeah, get plugging away. So, all right. Anything else on legislation?
By the way, I just want to say kudos on 1481 cap stuff. It's a big deal, and appreciate all your hard work.
Who else was on? Oh, yeah. So, Bob, could you please stand up? And Lee, just wanted to thank you guys for all the hard work. I was. Who else was on the review committee? Don't hide. You stand up too. So anyway, thank you very much. You know, seeing you guys coming back, meeting after meeting, and reporting out on the gruesome details that you would work through. You know, it's like it's bad enough just doing one section. I know that, and you guys went through the whole thing, so it's really impressive.
Well, I'd just like to say thank you for the opportunity for 6 years and 32 meetings of reading and going over the Structural Pest Control Act.
I will note that you're better tanned now, so it looks like you have more time.
That's what happens when you don't spend half your life in an airport.
And you know, I'd like to just comment that just your guys' dedication was very, very helpful when I was at the Capitol year after year trying to get this stuff in a bill because they were very impressed. I mean, you guys met more often than the board members. I mean, it's 4 times a year. So even the individuals, the people at the Capitol were very impressed with the dedication from your team. Thank you.
We appreciate the help from the staff, you, Susan, and Dave. We appreciate all the help you guys gave us. Thank you.
And we're finally done.
Yay!
And now you have to go on without getting all that additional compensation. So you just okay. So we're moving on to our Structural Pest Control Board strategic planning update.
So just an update that the last strategic plan that we did was for 2015 through 2018. So I want to give all the board members that just a heads up that I'll be reaching out to the department and out to you folks, trying to get something on calendar in 2019 to do a new strategic plan.
In 2019, you said? Okay. So give me and Curtis a last shot at yeah.
Well,
Good
I thought I
timing.
would kind of what we try and do is I'll try and tie it in with a board meeting. So maybe April, we're usually in Sacramento, so we can have the team from DCA maybe the April 19th, and if that works for you guys' schedules. Although that's less days, so that may not work. So
Yeah,
we probably wouldn't be able to tie it into that one. So maybe October of 19 to tie it into that board meeting in Sacramento to have staff from the strategic planning unit within DCA.
Okay. Thank you. Any comments, board, public? Great. All right. And now an update on the implementation of DCA's CAS, whatever that means, credit card payment.
CAS is CAS. That stands for our legacy licensing database that we use. So it was brought to our attention that we might have a possibility to start initiating the possibility of some credit card payments for some functions within the board. So myself, along with all staff, was very, very excited until we actually went to a couple meetings and realized that the credit card option was only going to be for the industry for renewals. So they could use their credit card to renew their license, but they would still have to actually send in the renewal slip along with their signature, so when they had their hours and the date and all that. We felt that that would be too confusing for the industry, and it would make more problems than it would help. So we have declined to participate in that pilot program, and we're waiting for our new information technology system to go through where most everything will be online with credit card options.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Anything from the public? All right. So, moving on to discussion and possible action on our renewal process. I imagine that means license renewal process.
It is license renewal. There have been some discussion over the last couple of years about changing our licensing renewal form to require individuals to actually identify which courses they took on that form. While I plan to incorporate that into a new information technology platform that we can use in the future when individuals do renew, I thought it may be premature to do that right now because, one, we're making changes to the CAS system, our legacy system. The department isn't in favor of making changes to that legacy system because we're focusing most of their resources on the new systems that we're putting in place for all of us. And then in addition, we have pending continuing education, new requirements for IPM and all those that we don't have in place yet. So I thought it might be premature to make changes to our renewal form now until at least we get the new CE requirements in place through regulation.
That makes sense to me. Any comments from the board? Anything from the public?
No, the only comment is thank you for looking into this, but then one of my pet peeves, one of the things that I hate seeing every year is when people sign under penalty of perjury, which a lot of licensees don't understand what that means, and we have so many licenses, lost because they've signed that and they actually don't have the hours. So we're trying to look into a different type of system that would make them qualify that they actually go through like the QAL, where you actually write out your hours or the classes you take, and as opposed to just, oh yeah, I took 16 hours, and obviously they know they didn't. So that's kind of the gist of this and what we're looking at.
Okay. Someday I'm going to make a list of your pet peeves.
Yeah, I'm gonna be out of here.
Well, then that might be on your certificate of
That's my last one,
appreciation.
yeah.
So, all right. So moving on to future agenda items. I think we had something come up. Well, updates on.
Right. October is our annual meeting, so there'll be some things that you're reviewing, that you review every October at the annual meeting. Then in addition, we already have planned to have a discussion in closed session with Office of Professional Examination Services in regards to the applicator and the exam passing rate.
Okay.
So maybe there's additional items that people would like to see.
Well, I have a comment. I would like to comment that when, as companies and stuff, when we have the opportunity to send good individuals up for help writing these exams and those classes, unfortunately, some of the people that are attending these opportunities are maybe people we do not wish for them to be in the room. Sometimes they're retired individuals, they're just still holding a license. We're not getting really good qualified people. One discussion that we are having is really narrowing, for like the branch 1s, 2s and 3s actually, the time of year that we hold those exam writing classes. Sometimes it's not about, we're not just getting the best people in those rooms, so any of the big offices or companies, if we could just send better people up to help that, it might really mitigate some of the stupid questions. I know, I apologize. Anyway, I think as an industry, when you get that opportunity, it would really serve us better to send quality individuals up there to help with this process. Thank you.
Well, and there may be some confusion in the industry as well. I've heard some feedback that Office of Professional Examination Services is writing these exam questions, and it's not the staff there at all. What they do is we recruit individuals from the industry to say for a field rep branch 2 exam. So we try to get at least 7 or 8 individuals in the room. Those 7 or 8 individuals are writing examination questions. Then the next field rep branch 2 workshop, we try to get 7 or 8 different individuals to come in and review what the first work group wrote, just to make sure that everyone's on the same page with what you guys are doing in the industry and stuff. And then the third one is when it's a group of 7, 8 individuals that are actually doing the exam construction. So there really is an opportunity to look at these 3 different times, and we hope from 3 different groups of individuals. But that just depends on the participation from the industry as well.
Okay, thank you.
Is there any other year specialists that attend those that sit in the back and just observe?
Right, we're kind of getting into
sorry.
discussion of something that's not on the agenda,
You're right,
so,
you're right.
and Sabina, I'm sure would have tackled the both of you.
Yes, you're right.
So, any other ideas for future agenda items? Come on, you guys, keep us busy, so. All right, so we're gonna move, on to our, board calendar, which we probably already set through April?
Well, October of 18 is Sacramento, the 16th and 17th. January, I don't believe that we have confirmation yet, but January hopefully is this location again on the 15th, 16th. April is Sacramento with the 17th and 18th. I believe that's coordinated with your legislative days, correct?
Chris, is the April 17th, 18th for coincide with PCOC lunch days? Does that work?
Let me just check and verify. 17,
And-
yes.
Okay.
So
And
you'd be the
just-
15, 16? Or
Okay.
16, 17, yeah.
And just for clarification, like October is Tuesday, Wednesday, January is Tuesday, Wednesday. We've kind of tried to move to Tuesday, Wednesday because it seems to help Christina in trying to secure state rate at hotels. April is Wednesday, Thursday because it coincides with PCOC activities. So then you'd be looking at scheduling a July meeting in Southern California, some location, maybe here, I'm not sure your preference. Dave has identified when we run out for our 100 days, which is last week, so maybe the 3rd week in July. Read this year. It would be the week after.
In July? Yeah. And that would be down.
Yeah.
I gotta check something. More than likely, I'll have something that interferes, but I can't predict it, so.
So maybe 23rd, 24th, Southern California?
Yeah, that's probably most likely gonna work for me, so. Hopefully we'll have more board members next year, so.
23rd and 24th?
Yep.
Yes. And of course, we always try and do closed session on the first day, so that public members in the industry isn't going through those closed session times, but like today's meeting, we had to schedule one day, all day to get it all in.
Yeah.
To have quorum, so. All depends on how much we have on the calendar, how many reinstatements we have, and you guys' schedule.
Okay, great. All right, so I believe that completes our agenda. Let me double check. Any comments on our calendar? Okay. So that, pardon me?
Not about the
Oh, you're-
calendar, not about the calendar, but general comments.
Are we,
Or items not on the agenda that was here?
No, it's
Yeah.
a question about the budget.
the research budget?
Yes.
We-
It's up to you if you want to go back to that.
Yeah, we can open that up. Shay, you wanna come?
Okay, so my name is Che from UCR Entomology. I'm one of the PIs for the proposals today. So I have some questions about the total budget. So this is the first page one we have in the back of the room. So this one have $1,186,000 for 2018-19 governor's budget.
But that's
Is that the total amount we're talking about, or?
That's projected for June 1st, 2019,
Oh,
next
okay.
year.
So we don't have that amount
No.
in the budget yet?
We have what was
We will.
projected for
Okay.
June 30th of 2018.
Okay.
Which I don't have confirmed yet because they haven't closed out fiscal year for
Okay.
17-18.
Okay.
But that projection, I feel pretty confident is pretty close.
Okay. The question I have, I look at the gradings and scores of the proposals. Discussion was that you decided to fund top 5. The sixth one is mine. It's one of the project I'm going to be working on. It's scored 81, which is higher than the minimum requirements for funding. And then if I add up all the total funding, from the top 5 and then mine, it's going to be $1,192,000. So which is only 6,000 higher than projected funding of 18 to 19. Since I'm involved in multiple projects that will be funded or not funded this year, I'm willing to adjust my budget to fit with the available budget. So it's kind of shame to see, the project which scored 81 points fundable, and it's the only project that will be working on bedbug, which is one of the important pests in urban situation, structural pest control perspective, due to just little shortage of the funding, the total funding. Since we are not quite sure when the next cycle of this structural pest control funding will come back to support more research, I would like to see whether there is any flexibility in terms of for us to adjust our budget, or my budget specifically, to meet the needs that structural pest control board might have in terms of the funding availability. The project has a students in it. I remember my graduate student will be funded by this proposed project. It covers multiple things. Bedbug detection dog, that is really common practices among pest control professionals in states, and we have to see more research done on that subject. So I'm here just kind of provide more inputs, my thoughts. It's the only project that handles bedbugs.
Sabina, do you have anything to say from your?
It's the board's discretion.
Okay.
You can.
Well, I don't know to what extent the committee considered, part of the score was whether the budget proposed was adequate. That wasn't.
Budget was not considered.
Okay.
Purely based on the proposals and the information submitted.
So.
And that's not why they ranked it the way they ranked, saying we would take the top 5 and that will deplete our.
Oh no, I didn't really expect that was the case. Some scoring systems look at, does the budget proposed match it? So, which would, if we had were asked that question, then that would make it much more difficult to accommodate Shay's request to do that, because then you would be, people would have already incorporated that in their score. Curtis, do you have anything any thoughts on
I
that?
thought the committee was pretty thorough going through all their proposals.
Yeah.
And I thought they were pretty diligent. I know they spent quite a bit of time on it. And I know it was subject matters. I mean, they looked at it in quite detailed, everything on, and it wasn't trying to narrow these 5 into that fit that box. It was just strictly on the subject matters, and I think that's pretty much how they went by it. So it wasn't trying to fit anything into the budget.
No, well, I guess what I was wondering was, did you have any thoughts about about Shay's proposal that we fund the 6th project under the provision that is the other projects that he's involved in? I see one other project where you're the PI.
Yes, I'm on that one too, and also I'm highly involved in the Yellow Jacket Baiting project.
The one by Mike Rust?
Yes.
So
my staff will be supported by that Yellow Jacket Baiting project.
Okay, and so given those 3, you would. I wasn't part of it. I'm wondering what the other board members think, and particularly you, whether you think it is an appropriate thing for us to fund this 6th and leave it to Shay to adjust the budget on the other ones that he has. That seems like kind of an awkward thing for us to
I'm a little
do.
concerned about changing any kind of bids right now, because everything was officially submitted.
Yeah.
We have to rely on the record and what was submitted to DCA.
Yeah.
It's a little, because then then everybody can just start throwing around all sorts of numbers. We have to rely on what was submitted. And if there's a negotiation process later, like for example, maybe the totally crazy may not happen, but maybe she gets back and says, and DCA says, oh, the number was wrong, it was $900,000 to work with, and then maybe that would open up an opportunity for DCA to reach out and see if there's any movement on the top 5 to reduce, so we can still award the ones that you guys awarded today, but we have to go on what was submitted. That's my recommendation.
So
I think it's wonky.
So for the time being, our council is advising us that we shouldn't provide that flexibility here. It doesn't mean that as the contracts are coming on, and that's what you're talking about, so the contracts, things will be accepted, contracts negotiations will be done, and if the budget of the other, and it may not even be just yours, but if it looks like the actual number that's going to be in the contract is less, then it gives us some room. And we have opportunity at a future meeting to approve additional projects if there's enough money in there for them. That well enough said. So perhaps we could put that as a line item in our future agenda as it comes up. So, for the next meeting, that could be on the agenda, and if we have an opportunity to do it, then it'll be on our agenda, and we could do that in October.
Yeah, the major reason I'm saying this is that those top 6, the proposals got higher than 80 points in average score.
Yeah.
That was written, the 80 was written minimal score for distinguishing fundable and non-fundable project based on request for proposal. So those top 6 are officially, I think, could be considered.
They're available to be funded.
It's available for funding, so if there is any flexibility, I'd like to see.
So we're going to
those
try
all
and
funded.
see what the actual dollar numbers are as these projects move forward.
Sure.
And there's an actual contract in place that would more sharply define what our available level of funding is. So it sounds like at least conceptually we're trying to do that flexibility. We can't do it here today because of it doesn't really fit the process that we announced as far as how we're going to do it, because these were specific proposals. So yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
So we have flexibility, maybe not quite as much as you would like to.
Sure. Yeah. I just giving my input. That's it.
But thank you. That's a creative way of looking at it. So, all right. So So we've finished our business, and I don't see any other comments from the public. Thank you very much. We are adjourned.